"Don't enter that car." Deborah's voice cut through the quiet street. The black SUV was already running. Its engine was smooth. The windows were dark. The road was tarred and clean. The houses around had tall gates, shiny tiles, and flowers that looked too perfect to be real. Ngozi's hand was on the door handle. She froze. Her heart jumped. Deborah stood on the sidewalk with one arm raised high, palm open, like she was trying to stop a speeding truck with just her hand. Her ash-colored Ankara gown was torn at the hem and stained with mud. Her hair was messy, scattered across her face like she had run through wind and dust. Her eyes were wide and serious. "Just warning." "Madam," Deborah shouted again, louder, "please, don't enter." Ngozi stared at her like she was seeing a ghost. "Who are you?" Ngozi whispered, confused. "Why are you yelling at me?" Inside the SUV, John leaned forward from the front seat. His white suit looked expensive, crisp and clean. His face was tight with anger. Even from where Ngozi stood, she could feel his heat, like the man was holding a fire inside. "Get in," John snapped, his voice sharp. "Ignore that woman." Deborah didn't step back. She stepped closer. "Don't," Deborah shouted. "If you enter, you won't come back." Ngozi's fingers trembled on the handle. Her mind went blank, then noisy, then blank again. She didn't know who to believe. John's jaw clenched. He glared at Deborah through the open window. His eyes were cold, like he hated being stopped. "Woman, shift," he barked. "Do you know who you're talking to?" Deborah swallowed hard, but she didn't move. Ngozi felt the street spin for a second. She looked at Deborah's dirty clothes, then at John's clean suit, then at the expensive car, then back at Deborah's shaking hand. And for the first time in her life, Ngozi felt something she had never felt around rich people with confident voices. Fear. She didn't know why, but her heart told her something was wrong. Slowly, Ngozi removed her hand from the door. John's eyes widened in irritation. "Ngozi," he said, forcing a fake calm, "come on, we'll be late. Your father will blame me." That name, father, usually made Ngozi obey. Chief Namadi, the powerful businessman, the feared billionaire, the man whose name opened gates without knocking. Ngozi swallowed. Then she did something that shocked even her. She shut the car door. Clack. The sound was small, but it felt huge, like thunder. John's face changed instantly. The fake calm disappeared. His eyes hardened. "Are you serious?" he hissed. Ngozi stepped back. Deborah's breathing was fast. She looked like a woman who had seen death and was trying to stop it from happening again. Ngozi's chest rose and fell quickly. Ngozi tried to speak, but her voice broke. John's hands tightened on the steering wheel. His anger looked like it could jump out of his body. "You think this dirty woman knows anything?" he snapped, pointing at Deborah. "Look at her. She's a nobody." Deborah flinched, but she didn't argue. Instead, she stared straight at Ngozi, pleading with her eyes. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears, confusion tears, fear tears, embarrassment tears. Then, without thinking, Ngozi turned and ran, away from the SUV, away from John's anger, away from the danger she still didn't fully understand. John shouted something behind her, but she didn't stop. Deborah ran too, limping slightly like her feet hurt, but she still followed. Then, the SUV suddenly moved. John pressed the accelerator hard. The tires screeched lightly. The black car zoomed forward like a beast freed from a cage. As it sped away, Deborah's whole body shook. Ngozi stopped running and turned, watching the SUV disappear down the road. The street became quiet again. Too quiet. Ngozi stood there breathing hard, her cheeks wet. Deborah bent over, hands on her knees, trying to catch her breath. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Ngozi turned to Deborah with a trembling voice. "Why?" she asked, tears rolling down her face. "Why did you stop me?" Deborah looked up slowly. Her eyes were watery too. She opened her mouth, then paused like she was scared to say the truth out loud. Ngozi wiped her face quickly, but the tears kept coming. "You don't even know me," Ngozi said. "I've never seen you before. Why would you risk that man's anger for me?" Deborah's lips shook. "I know you," she said softly. Ngozi blinked. "You do?" Deborah nodded once. I know your face, she whispered, because everyone in Nigeria knows Chief Namadi's only daughter. Ngozi's throat tightened. Deborah looked around quickly, like she was afraid someone could hear them. Then she stepped closer and lowered her voice. I was in that uncompleted building near the road, she said, pointing behind them. I sleep there sometimes. It hides me from rain. Ngozi's eyes widened. You sleep there? Deborah didn't answer that part. She continued, voice shaking. I heard him, that man in the white suit, Deborah said. I heard him making a call. Ngozi's stomach turned. What call? She asked, almost whispering now. Deborah swallowed hard, then spoke faster, like she had to say it before fear stopped her. He said, Deborah began, then her voice broke. She cleared her throat and tried again. He said he has tracked down Chief Namadi's daughter. Ngozi's whole body went cold. Deborah's eyes locked onto Ngozi's face. He said tonight, he would abduct you. Ngozi gasped and covered her mouth with both hands. Deborah continued, tears starting to fall now. He said he works for your father's greatest rival, Allison of Allison's group. Ngozi shook her head quickly, like she could shake away the words. No, no. John wouldn't. He's been driving me for weeks when my security is busy. My father trusts him. Deborah's face twisted in pain. That's why it would have worked, she said. Because you trust him. Ngozi's knees felt weak. Deborah reached out gently, as if to steady her. But why would he do that? Ngozi cried. Why would Allison want me? Deborah looked terrified as she answered. They want to use you, she whispered. They want to use your kidnapping to bring down your father. Ngozi started crying harder now. Big tears, loud sobs, the kind of crying that makes your whole body shake. Deborah's own tears dropped onto her dirty dress. And if you entered that car, Deborah's voice turned into a broken whisper, that would have been your end. Ngozi couldn't breathe for a second. Then she did something she never thought she would do. She threw her arms around Deborah. She hugged her tightly, like Deborah was the only safe thing left on that street. She didn't care about the tattered Ankara. She didn't care about the mudstains. She didn't care about what people would say if they saw her hugging a homeless woman. Ngozi held her like family. Thank you, Ngozi sobbed into Deborah's shoulder. Thank you. You saved me. Deborah hugged her back, shaking. I didn't want you to die, she whispered. I lost my husband. I can't watch another person be taken. Ngozi pulled back suddenly. My driver, she remembered. My real driver is at the mechanic. My car had a small issue earlier. I told him I would walk a bit and meet him after he fixed it. Ngozi quickly wiped her face and grabbed her phone with trembling hands. Deborah looked around again, panicking. We shouldn't stand here, Deborah warned. What if he turns back? Ngozi nodded quickly and dialed. As the phone rang, she held Deborah's hand, refusing to let go. The call connected. Madam, the driver, answered, worried. Where are you? I've been calling. Ngozi spoke fast. Don't move from the mechanic. I'm coming now. Please come and pick me immediately, and be careful. Someone tried to take me. There was a sharp silence on the phone. What? The driver asked, alarmed. Ngozi looked at Deborah, then turned away slightly. I will explain when you get here, she said. Just hurry. She ended the call and turned back to Deborah. Come with me, Ngozi said firmly. Deborah blinked. Me? Yes, Ngozi insisted. You saved my life. You can't stay here alone. Not now. Deborah hesitated, fear and shock on her face, but Ngozi didn't give her time to argue. She held Deborah's hand and started walking quickly toward the mechanic area down the street. The sun was still bright, but suddenly the whole day felt dark. Every passing car sounded dangerous. Every shadow looked like a hiding place. And while they walked, Ngozi's phone buzzed. A message popped up on her screen. It was from an unknown number. 3 words. You ruined it. Ngozi's blood ran cold. She stared at the message, her hands shaking so badly the phone almost slipped. Deborah noticed Ngozi's face change. What is it? Deborah asked. Ngozi slowly turned the phone screen toward her. Deborah's eyes widened in horror. And at that exact moment, Ngozi looked up and saw a familiar black SUV at the far end of the road, turning back toward them. Slowly, like it was hunting. The black SUV slowed as it turned the corner, and Ngozi's heart slammed against her ribs. "That's him," she whispered. Deborah's fingers tightened around Ngozi's hand. Her face drained of color. For a woman who had already lost everything, fear still knew how to find her. "Don't look," Deborah murmured. "Act normal." But nothing felt normal. Ngozi pulled Deborah closer to her side as they kept walking, pretending not to notice the car. Her legs felt heavy, like they were moving through water. Every step took effort. The SUV stopped. The engine idled. Ngozi didn't turn around, but she could feel John's eyes burning into her back. Then the driver's door opened. Ngozi's body stiffened. Footsteps, slow, calm, confident, just like before. "Ngozi." John's voice sounded smooth, almost gentle, too gentle. She turned slowly. John stood a few steps away, his white suit still perfect, his face wearing a practiced smile. If anyone else saw him, they would think he was just a worried driver trying to protect his boss's daughter. But Ngozi had seen the message. "You ruined it." Her hands shook. "Why did you run?" John asked softly. "You embarrassed me." Deborah stepped slightly in front of Ngozi without thinking. "We are fine," Deborah said, her voice firm but polite. "Please go." John's smile faded for half a second. Then it returned, wider, colder. "And who are you?" he asked, looking Deborah up and down like she was dirt on his shoe. "She's with me," Ngozi said quickly. "My father will hear about this." John laughed lightly. "Your father?" He shook his head. "Ngozi, you're being dramatic." He took one step closer. Ngozi stepped back. "I said stop," she warned. John's eyes flicked to the road, then back to her, his jaw tightened. Before he could speak again, a loud horn blared. A blue car pulled up fast and stopped beside them. Ngozi's driver jumped out, fear written all over his face. "Madam!" he shouted. Ngozi almost collapsed in relief. John straightened immediately, stepping back like nothing was wrong. "Ah," John said lightly, "your driver. Good." The driver's eyes moved from Ngozi to Deborah to John. Something in his expression changed. "Is there a problem?" the driver asked. Ngozi didn't answer. She just rushed forward and hugged him briefly, shaking. "We're leaving now," she said. John chuckled. "No need to panic." Just stay away from me," Ngozi said sharply. The street went quiet. John stared at her, shocked. The driver opened the back door quickly. "Madam, enter." Ngozi turned to Deborah. "Please, come." Deborah hesitated again, but the fear in her eyes said she knew she couldn't be alone now. She entered the car. As the door closed, Ngozi looked back at John one last time. His smile was gone. What remained was anger, pure and burning. The car pulled away. John stood there, watching them leave, his hands clenched into fists. Inside the car, silence filled the air. Ngozi's driver kept checking the mirror. "Madam," he said carefully, "that man, he is not normal." Ngozi nodded, tears filling her eyes again. "He was going to kidnap me," she whispered. The driver swore under his breath and pressed the accelerator harder. Deborah sat quietly, her hands folded tightly on her lap. She stared out the window like she was afraid the world might disappear if she blinked. When they reached the mansion gates, armed security rushed forward. The gates closed behind them with a loud metallic sound. Ngozi finally felt safe enough to cry. Inside the living room, the air was cool and calm, but her heart was still racing. Chief Namadi stood up the moment he saw her. "Ngozi," he called, "what happened? Why are you shaking?" Ngozi ran into his arms. "Daddy," she sobbed, "I almost died today." The room froze. Chief Namadi pulled back, his face turning hard. "What do you mean?" Ngozi pointed at Deborah, who stood awkwardly by the door, her tattered dress out of place among the luxury. "She saved me," Ngozi said. "If not for her, I would not be standing here." Deborah bowed her head, embarrassed. Ngozi told everything: the warning, the call, the message, the SUV turning back. By the time she finished, Chief Namadi's face was dark with rage. "Allison," he muttered, "so he has started again." He turned to his head of security. "Find that man," Chief Namadi ordered coldly. "John, alive." The room moved quickly after that, calls, guards, locked gates. Through it all, Deborah stood quietly, forgotten by everyone except Ngozi. Ngozi walked over and held her hand again. "Stay with us," Ngozi said softly. "Please." Deborah shook her head. "I don't belong here." "You belong where you are safe," Ngozi replied. Chief Namadi watched them closely. "Who are you?" he asked Deborah gently now. "My name is Deborah," she said. "I am a widow." "Where is your family?" he asked. Deborah's eyes filled with tears. "They are gone." Something in Chief Namadi's face softened. "From today," he said slowly, "you will not return to the street." Deborah looked up, shocked. "You saved my daughter," he continued. "Anyone who does that is family." Deborah fell to her knees suddenly. "Thank you, sir," she cried. Ngozi hugged her again. That night, Deborah slept on a clean bed for the first time in years. But sleep did not come easily, because far away in a quiet apartment, John held his phone tightly and listened to a voice on the other end. "You failed," the voice said calmly. John swallowed. "There is still time," John replied. "She trusts the woman now." A pause, then the voice spoke again. "Then we destroy the woman." John smiled slowly, and at that same moment, Deborah woke up suddenly in the mansion, her heart pounding, as if danger had followed her inside. Deborah woke up screaming. Her body jolted upright on the soft bed, her chest rising and falling fast. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The ceiling was smooth and white. The room smelled clean. The bed was warm, then the fear returned. She pressed her hand to her chest. "It was just a dream," she whispered. But it didn't feel like one. She swung her legs down and sat there quietly, listening. The mansion was silent. Too silent. Deborah stood up slowly and walked to the window. She pulled the curtain back just a little. Outside, the compound lights glowed softly. Guards moved calmly at their posts. Still, Deborah's heart refused to calm down. She remembered the voice from the phone call she overheard. The cold words, the plan. "They will come again," she whispered. Behind her, the door opened. Deborah spun around, fear flashing in her eyes. It was Ngozi. "Deborah," Ngozi said softly. "I heard you." Deborah's shoulders dropped in relief. "I'm sorry," Deborah said. "I didn't mean to wake anyone." Ngozi came closer and sat beside her on the bed. "You didn't wake anyone," she said. "I was already awake." They sat in silence for a moment. "I can't stop thinking," Ngozi admitted. "If you had not been there." Deborah looked down at her hands. "God placed me there," she said quietly. "I was not meant to be invisible that day." Ngozi smiled weakly. "You are not invisible anymore," she said. "Not to me." The next morning, the mansion buzzed with activity. Security had doubled. Cars were checked carefully. Phones rang non-stop. Chief Namadi had locked himself in his study, holding meetings with his lawyers and security team. Deborah stayed mostly in the guest room, unsure of where she belonged. She stared at the wardrobe, filled with beautiful clothes someone had placed there for her. "These are not mine," she whispered. She chose the simplest dress and wore it carefully. When she stepped into the living room, heads turned, not because she looked rich, but because she looked different. Clean, calm, present. Chief Namadi noticed her. "Good morning, Deborah," he said. She bowed slightly. "Good morning, sir." He studied her for a long moment. "You are very brave," he said finally. Deborah shook her head. "I was afraid." "Brave people are always afraid," he replied. Before she could respond, a guard rushed in. "Sir," the guard said urgently, "we have a situation." Chief Namadi stood up immediately. "What kind?" "There is a video circulating online." Ngozi's heart skipped. "What video?" she asked. The guard hesitated. "It involves Deborah." The room went still. Deborah's stomach dropped. The guard handed Chief Namadi a tablet. On the screen was a video recorded secretly. It showed Deborah at the uncompleted building, sleeping on the bare floor, wearing her tattered clothes. A voice mocked her in the background. "Look at this mad woman," the voice laughed. "She claims she saved the billionaire's daughter." Ngozi gasped. Deborah covered her mouth. The video ended with words written boldly: "Liar, setup, attention seeker." Ngozi turned pale. Who would do this? Chief Namadi's face hardened. Allison, he said quietly. This is his style. Deborah's hands shook. I should leave, she whispered. I don't want to bring trouble. Ngozi grabbed her arm. No, Chief Namadi raised his hand. This is exactly what they want, he said calmly, to shame you, to scare you away. Deborah's eyes filled with tears. I don't understand why they hate me. They don't hate you, Chief Namadi said. They fear you. That surprised her. Because you are proof, he continued, proof that their plan failed. Later that day, Deborah sat alone in the garden. She watched birds land on the grass, free and unafraid. Ngozi joined her, holding her phone. People are commenting, Ngozi said sadly. Some believe the lies. Deborah nodded slowly. They always do. Ngozi looked at her. How do you stay strong? Deborah smiled gently. I lost my husband. I lost my home. I lost my name. When you lose everything, fear has nothing left to take. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the front gate. Security shouted, cars screeched. Ngozi jumped to her feet. What's happening? A guard ran toward them. Madam, he yelled. A car tried to force its way in. Deborah froze. Her heart knew before her mind did. They found me, she whispered. Chief Namadi's voice boomed from behind them. Lock the compound. Guards moved fast. The gate closed just in time. Outside, a black SUV sat angrily, its engine roaring. Through the bars, Deborah saw him. John. He stared straight at her and smiled. Her blood ran cold. The guards raised their weapons. John lifted his hands slowly and stepped back. The SUV reversed and sped away. Silence fell. Ngozi clutched Deborah tightly. He came for you, Ngozi whispered. Deborah nodded, her legs weak. And he won't stop, she said softly. High above them, a drone hovered briefly, its camera pointed down. Chief Namadi noticed it. Bring that down, he ordered sharply. The drone vanished, but not before capturing everything. Far away, Allison watched the live feed and smiled. Good, he said. Now the real game begins. Deborah looked up at the sky, her heart pounding. She had survived the streets, but this war was different. And she knew one thing for sure, they would not stop until she was destroyed, or until the truth was fully revealed. The mansion did not sleep that night. Lights stayed on. Guards walked faster. Phones rang again and again. Every sound felt louder than it should be. Deborah sat on the edge of the bed in the guest room, her hands folded tightly on her lap. Her heart still beat too fast. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw John's smile through the gate. Slow, confident, threatening. They had come for her, not for Ngozi, for her. A soft knock came on the door. Deborah flinched. It's me, Ngozi's voice said gently. Deborah stood up quickly. Come in. Ngozi entered holding a cup of warm tea. Her eyes looked tired but determined. Drink, Ngozi said. You haven't eaten or rested. Deborah took the cup with shaking hands. Thank you. They sat together in silence for a while. I'm sorry, Deborah finally said. All of this trouble is because of me. Ngozi turned to her sharply. No. This trouble is because evil people don't like the truth. Deborah sighed deeply. I only wanted to save you. I didn't think it would turn into this. Ngozi reached for her hand. Deborah, look at me. Deborah looked up. You saved my life, Ngozi said firmly. If you had not shouted that day, my father would be planning my burial right now. Do you understand that? Deborah's eyes filled with tears. Ngozi continued, her voice shaking but strong. Whatever they are planning next, we will face it together. In another part of the mansion, Chief Namadi stood in his study, staring at his phone. On the screen were reports, photos, messages, names. Allison of Allison's group had crossed lines before. Business attacks, lies in the media, court cases. But this time he had crossed a different line. You tried to touch my child, Chief Namadi said quietly to himself. His head of security stood nearby. Sir, the man said, we traced the drone. It was launched from a rented apartment. The name used is fake. Chief Namadi nodded. Of course it is. And John? The security chief asked. Chief Namadi's eyes hardened. John is a small fish. Allison is the ocean. He turned slowly. They want to break Deborah, Chief Namadi said, because she is the weak link. The security chief hesitated. Should we move her to a safe house? Chief Namadi shook his head. No, running will make her look guilty. He paused, then added, instead, we protect her and prepare her. The next morning, the attack came. It started quietly. Ngozi was scrolling through her phone when she gasped. What? Deborah asked quickly. Ngozi turned the screen toward her. A headline flashed boldly across the screen. Deborah's breath caught. The article was full of lies. They called her an actress. They said she was paid to pretend. They said she planned everything to trap Chief Namadi. Photos of her old life were everywhere. Her sleeping place, her torn clothes, her crying face from years ago. The comments were worse. She's a liar. These poor people are dangerous. Throw her back to the streets. Deborah's hands shook so badly the phone almost fell. Ngozi grabbed it away. Don't read that, she said angrily. Deborah stood up suddenly. I can't stay here, she said. This is destroying your family. Ngozi stood too. Stop saying that. Deborah's voice broke. They will never stop. Today it is words. Tomorrow it will be blood. At that moment, Chief Namadi entered the room. He had seen everything. Deborah, he said calmly, sit down. She obeyed slowly. He sat across from her. I want to ask you something, he said gently, and I need you to tell me the full truth. Deborah nodded. Why were you really at that uncompleted building? He asked. Deborah swallowed. I had nowhere else, she said softly. After my husband died, his family took everything. The house, the land, even my clothes. Ngozi's eyes widened. They said I was bad luck, Deborah continued. They chased me away. She paused, then added quietly, that building was the only place that didn't ask me questions. The room went silent. Chief Namadi leaned back slowly. You didn't plan anything, he said. No, Deborah replied firmly. I planned nothing. I only heard a voice that scared me. He studied her face for a long moment, then he stood up. Good, he said. Ngozi looked confused. Good. Yes, Chief Namadi said, because now we fight with truth. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. Chief Namadi called a press conference. Ngozi gasped when she heard. Daddy, are you sure? She asked. They will. Attack us more? He smiled slightly. Let them. Deborah's heart raced. Sir, please. He raised a hand. You will not speak, he said kindly. I will. Cameras filled the hall, reporters whispered, people waited eagerly for drama. Chief Namadi stepped forward. My daughter was almost kidnapped, he said calmly, and the woman you are insulting online saved her life. The room exploded with noise. He raised his hand again. This woman did not come looking for luxury, he continued. Luxury came looking for her because she chose courage. He paused. And anyone who tries to harm her is declaring war on me. Gasps filled the hall. Back at the mansion, Deborah watched the broadcast on TV, her hands covering her mouth. Ngozi hugged her tightly. He's protecting you, Ngozi whispered. Tears rolled down Deborah's face. For the first time in years, someone was standing up for her. But far away, Allison watched the same broadcast. His face was calm, too calm. So he chose open war, Allison said softly. He turned to John, who stood nervously beside him. Get ready, Allison said. If the woman does not fall, then the man will. John's eyes widened. Sir? Allison smiled thinly. Chief Namadi has something he loves now. That night, Deborah stood alone on the balcony. The city lights stretched endlessly before her. Chief Namadi joined her quietly. You should be resting, he said. Deborah smiled weakly. Sleep doesn't come easily anymore. He nodded. It stopped coming easily for me too, after my wife died. Deborah looked at him in surprise. I didn't know, she said softly. He sighed. Loss changes people. They stood in silence. Deborah, he said suddenly, I want you to know something. She turned to him. As long as you are under my roof, he said firmly, no one will touch you. Her eyes filled with tears again. "Thank you," she whispered. Below them, unnoticed, a car slowed across the street. A camera lens pointed up at the balcony. A photo was taken, and the next headline was already being prepared. The headline broke at dawn. The photo was clear. Too clear. Chief Namadi and Deborah stood on the balcony, side by side, city lights behind them. The angle made it look like something it was not. Ngozi stared at the screen in shock. "This is wickedness," she whispered. "Pure wickedness." Deborah sat on the bed, staring at the wall. Her hands trembled. "I told you," she said quietly. "I told you they would not stop." Chief Namadi entered the room calmly, dressed in a dark suit. His face showed no panic, only resolve. "They have played their last card," he said. Ngozi turned to him. "Daddy?" "They wanted to shame us," he continued, "to confuse the public, to make you doubt her." Deborah looked up slowly. "Sir, I never wanted—" He raised his hand gently. "I know." Then he turned to the head of security. "Bring him in." Minutes later, John was dragged into the living room by two guards. His suit was wrinkled. His confidence was gone. Fear sat openly on his face. Ngozi stepped back in shock. "John!" John dropped to his knees. "I'm sorry," he cried. "I was forced." Chief Namadi's voice was calm but deadly. "Speak." John shook violently. "Allison planned everything, the kidnapping, the videos, the headlines. He wanted your daughter. When that failed, he wanted Deborah destroyed. He said if I didn't obey, he would kill me." Ngozi felt sick. "Do you have proof?" Chief Namadi asked. John nodded desperately. "Messages, calls, recordings." He handed over his phone. The room went silent as the evidence played. Allison's voice, clear, cold, planning everything. Ngozi covered her mouth in horror. Deborah closed her eyes and cried quietly. Chief Namadi straightened. "Take him away," he ordered, "and prepare the evidence." That same afternoon, the country stopped. Screens everywhere showed one thing: Allison's arrest. The recordings played live, the lies exposed, the kidnapping plan revealed. The truth about Deborah confirmed. People who mocked her went silent. Those who insulted her deleted their words, and those who doubted now bowed their heads in shame. Ngozi watched the broadcast with tears in her eyes. "She saved me," Ngozi said softly, "and the world tried to crush her for it." Deborah stood beside her, still in simple clothes, still humble. "I only did what any human should do," Deborah said. Ngozi turned and hugged her tightly. "You did more," she said. "You became my mother when I needed one." Deborah froze, then she hugged her back. Weeks passed. Peace returned slowly. Deborah no longer hid in corners. She walked freely in the mansion. She laughed again. She slept without fear. And Chief Namadi noticed something he had not expected. He noticed her strength, her kindness, her quiet wisdom. One evening, as they sat in the garden watching the sun go down, he spoke. "Deborah," he said softly, "you came into this house as a stranger." She smiled gently. "I know. But you healed something broken here," he continued, "in me, and in my daughter." Deborah looked at him surprised. "I lost my wife years ago," he said. "I closed my heart after that." He paused. "But somehow, you opened it again." Deborah's breath caught. "Sir," she whispered, "I am only a widow who survived." He shook his head. "You are a woman of courage." Time passed. Love grew quietly, naturally, without force. And one morning, Chief Namadi asked Deborah to marry him. She cried. Ngozi cried harder. The wedding was simple but beautiful. On the day Ngozi married Elijah, the kind, respected engineer she loved, it was Deborah who walked her down the aisle. Deborah's hands shook as she held Ngozi's arm. "You look beautiful," Deborah whispered, tears in her eyes. "So do you, Mama," Ngozi replied. When they reached the altar, Ngozi hugged her tightly. "Thank you," Ngozi whispered, "for saving my life and giving me a home." Deborah could not speak. She only cried. As the hall filled with joy and music, Deborah looked around and smiled. She had started as a homeless widow with nothing, and ended as a woman surrounded by love, truth, and family. Not because she chased wealth, but because she chose courage. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.